Hey, I'm Liv, welcome back to my channel Endless Pages, and welcome to today's video, which is my October wrap-up. Hello, hope you've all been well. Finally, I'm posting a video. I'm very happy and proud of myself that I'm managing to get a video out that is not a TBR video. So today's video, as I said, is my October wrap-up. Listen, filming this is making me a little bit salty. I filmed a spooky reading vlog in October. I was very proud of it. I spent a lot of time editing it and a lot of time on it, a lot of time reading for it, and I was really proud of it. And I was like, finally, like a themed vlog to upload. And yeah, half the footage, I don't know what happened to it. It corrupted something. So I'm a little bit salty to talk about a lot of these books because I've already talked about them in a video that I was quite proud of and unable to post. But that's okay. We'll move on with a smile on my face. Smile through the pain. Anyway, I read about 8 books in October, which is damn good for me. I'm really proud of that. And then I had 2 DNFs, so I'll quickly talk you through the DNFs. One's a hard DNF, and that was Bunny by Mona Awad. I don't know how to say it, sorry. This was off my 12 and 12 list. I don't have much to say about this. I think I got like over an hour into the audiobook and this is just not my genre. It's not something I'm ever going to enjoy, and I think I knew as soon as I started reading it that it was not my kind of book. So please take my DNFing this very lightly if you're considering reading it, because it's just, I knew it wasn't going to be my kind of read, and that's okay. So that was my one hard DNF. I had a soft DNF as well, These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan, I think it's by. I started this and I was like, oh, this is cringy. So, but it's also on my 12 and 12 list. So I'm going to attempt it again in November, which it is currently while I'm filming this, and I have not started it yet. But anyway, those are my 2 DNFs for the month. Let's just jump into what I actually read. The first book I read in the month of October is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, and I loved it. I gave this one 4 stars. As you know, I'm not a romance girly, but I do love the Brown Sisters books. So this second book follows Danny Brown, who works at a university, and her character is very much like, I don't want a relationship. She doesn't want a relationship. She just wants sex part, doesn't want the emotional, you know, part, etc, etc. And she's kind of friends with this guy who's the security guard at the university in the building that she works at. And then there's like a fire drill, like a fake fire drill, and he like goes and runs into the building to get her because he notices that she's like not there while they're all evacuated in the evacuation zone. And then someone films him like carrying her down the stairs. And anyway, it's getting all this good publicity for the guy's sports charity. So they agree to fake date to bring more publicity and more donations into his charity. And then, you know, things go on from there. I love this book. It was so good. Like I said, 4 stars. I think she is so good at writing, 1, character growth and character development, and 2, male characters. Like, I always feel like the male characters have such, both in the first book and in this book, have such healthy relationship with their emotions. They can be like big, strong, macho men in their appearance and sometimes in their chivalrous way, but when it comes to the important bits, they are in touch with their emotions in a really healthy way, in a very toxic masculinity way. So I always find the love interest so attractive and just so enjoyable to read their perspectives, because it's just like no toxicity. I love it. This book is adorable. I loved Danny Brown. I loved her growth throughout this book. I love how much her characters in both the first book and this book help each other grow and become better people and break down emotional walls, but they have barriers as well and know when to let each other deal with their own issues on their own, but they're there to support them. And it's just, this story was adorable. This was my first time reading the fake dating trope, and it was effing adorable. It was so cute. The sexual tension was just like amazing for both of them. Just amazing. I loved their banter. I loved the sexual tension. So cute. I will say, my only beef with this book, and it's a light beef, so it's okay. So I keep looking down at my phone. It was a while ago I read this, so the notes are helping. But sometimes I find the dialogue, the inner thoughts a little bit repetitive. What have I said here to help me out? Yeah, so when they're going through, when they're both thinking about this potential relationship and their feelings for one another, I find the thoughts quite repetitive. They just kind of seem to have the same thoughts about the situation like every chapter, and that was like a little bit repetitive, and I think it also stems from a little bit of like blindness. So they're thinking about their feelings for the other person, and there's always like uncertainty about how the other person feels. But I think to me sometimes it's obvious how the other person feels. Like, be like, oh, I don't know, I don't think they think about me that way, I don't think they want a relationship, but then they're like, you know, treating them like a goddess and talking and spending so much time and giving each other signs. And I think they just have this blindness sometimes about how the other person is feeling, and even though I think the other person has made it obvious how they feel and their intentions, and that it's obvious that they want to make a relationship and make more out of their time together. So that was like my only kind of beef with this book. The other little thing to go along with that is how I said like the blindness, and then when a character would admit how they feel or say something like super complimentary, oh my god, I can't speak, about the other character, their reaction would be like, I'm so shocked. And you're like, well, is it that shocking? Like, is it that shocking? You guys are sleeping together, you're spending every moment together. It's clear that there's feelings, and there's clear that you have such respect for each other, so it shouldn't be that shocking when they make that intention clear. That is my only beef with this book. This book is super adorable. I love how Talia Hibbert writes men. Oh my god, so good. I will definitely be reading the third book, Act Your Age, Eat Brown, I think it is. But yeah, 4 stars. I had a lovely time with this. It made me giggle. It was sexy. It was fun. And it was a really good time. And I don't know, maybe I like fake dating now. I forgot to say, Taking Danny Brown was for the Thick Thighs readathon, created by Sash Reads. The other book I read for Thick Thighs was Fly By Night by Tara O'Connor. This was a graphic novel about a girl whose sister has gone missing, and there might be some supernatural elements at play. I gave this one 4 stars because I thought it was absolutely moving and beautiful, and the illustrations were stunning. This story really is about grief, but it's also a big kind of metaphor for environmentalism, and that was a huge theme of this graphic novel that I loved. I found it quite hard to get through. It was really upsetting. It was kind of a girl going through the process of grieving, and how figuring out what happened to her sister might help her grieve properly. And it was really a really tough read, and I cried at the end. It was really sad. It's not an uplifting one, so read it when you're in a good mood. But I thought it was absolutely beautiful, and it used really clever story to deal with terms of environmentalism and the destruction of our planet and the impact that has. It was stunning. It was stunning. I loved the monster in this book. It was beautiful. Maybe a little bit rushed, but beautiful. 4 stars. Next up, I read The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Woo! This was a ride. This is one of the books I read for the vlog that has been lost. Rest in peace. I was loving this at the start. I was really loving it. I was super intrigued because this is basically about this rich woman, and back in like, I can't remember, the 70s or whatever, a long time ago, her whole family was murdered, and she's the only kind of viable suspect, but it was never proven that she killed her family. So she's just been living alone in this house with some staff for all these years. She's now like elderly and in need of full-time care, so our main character, who's a nurse, goes to move into this house to be her carer. She's also taken the job because she's not getting a lot of job offers because she used to be a carer for her mother and her mother died, and some people think that she was negligent in her duties and that's why her mother died. So she's just kind of desperate to take any job she can get, and this is the only job that her agency is offering her. So she moves into this house, and the rich lady, I can't remember character names, is decided to tell the nurse what really happened that night, the night that her family was murdered. So I really liked it at the start because you were really unsure whether what was going on in the house was just like placebo, like you knew someone was murdered in that house, so you just, I don't know, if you know something really bad has happened in that house, you'd think it's cursed or like bad energy, and I would certainly be hearing things too. So you don't know if it's that or if there's actually something supernatural going on in the house, and could it have been something supernatural that caused the family to die? So I really loved at the start that it was really open-ended in that way, and we're getting little sneak peeks and purposely little snippets of information without context to what happened that night. And then like, I don't know how far through, like 3/4 of the way through, my opinion of this book just shifted, and I was like, I'm not liking this book anymore. I just completely changed how I felt about it. I think it just started to go a little bit silly for me. It lost that, like, is it supernatural? Did she kill her family? Like, was it someone else? To really silly when they started trying to introduce to you, to throw you off, potential suspects. There was a bunch of staff that lived in the house as like a groundskeeper, a like, I don't know, someone that ran the household, a cleaner, blah blah blah, etc. And one by one there, I kind of guess their motives are shown, but it just felt really rushed and lazy, and these characters were just kind of used at the end just to be like, could they have done it? But we had no development for them. We barely spent any scenes with them, getting to know many of them. And it was just kind of felt like they were literally just written into the book to be like, well, it could have been them or it could have been them, but there was no setup. I guess I'm trying to say there was no satisfying setup throughout the book for you to go back and be like, oh, when that character did that, that was actually suspicious. You know what I mean? Like, slowly filter it through the book. Don't just at the end be like, it could have been them. So I found that quite frustrating because I just didn't feel like those characters were developed enough to be suspects, or to be satisfying enough for them to be suspects. And then I found the ending completely unsatisfying. I did, you know, that is on me for continuing to read it when I wasn't enjoying it, but I wanted to, you know, give the ending a go and see if it would satisfy me, but it certainly didn't. I found it really, really cringy, not at all satisfying or thrilling, and the ending just kind of seemed like a little bit too happy-go-lucky for a thriller. Just felt like, I don't know, like the ending scene of a freaking Hallmark movie. Like, this is what this character's up to, this is what this character's up to, and then characters that were used for 5 minutes for potential suspects were just like, that character moved away to that country, never seen again. It was just really unsatisfying. It just felt really silly towards the end, and I cannot believe how much my opinion shifted of this book. Like, like I went from like, I'm eating this up to like, this is painful. So I ended up giving it 3 stars because of how much I was enjoying it at the start. I feel like 2 stars is not fair because for a majority of it, I was enjoying it. So yeah, I struggled to give it a rating. But yeah, I'm really surprised. Maybe I don't like Riley Sager. Next up, I read Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesare. So I was in a bit of a slump after reading The Only One Left and some other stuff, and tried to read some other stuff. So this was a book that I read. I think maybe I've rated it higher than I would if I read it at a different time, but it was just a genuinely the perfect book to pick up for the reading mood that I was in, because I was getting slumpy. So this is basically about this small town. This girl moves to this small town for the first time, and these teenagers they're kind of like, there's this group of teenagers in the town that are kind of known as like the little shits, like the troublemakers, like the no goods, and they're throwing this party, and their town is like a kind of like a rural town, so the mascot is like this clown. what's it called? Friendo. Friendo the clown was their mascot. Anyway, Friendo the clown starts going around killing people. And that's pretty much the plot of this book. But yeah, I found this book super fast paced, super fun. We had some really, it was kind of a little bit slower paced at the start, but you know, there wasn't heaps of pages, heaps of words on a page, so the chapters felt quite short and quick. And then we would have these cool friendo kills like towards the end of each chapter at the start, so I felt like that was enough to keep me engaged, like just enough to keep me engaged in the story, because it's very teenagey at the start. But then once you get through that and get to the final kind of crescendo, that's not the right word, crescendo of the book, and the final big scene that lasts like the second half of the book pretty much, if I'm remembering correctly. That scene is awesome. That scene is really cool. It's just a bunch of really sick kills, and the characters realizing that maybe there's more than one friendo, and that realization, that scene was so cool when the characters realized, oh my god, so cool. I just found it quite terrifying, the thought of what led to the motivation of friendo, and yeah, the thoughts that would have been going through those kids' head at the situation they were in. Can we trust anyone in this town? So I found it a really satisfying, really cool book. It was super fast paced. It was exactly what I needed to read at that moment. And it's a trilogy, so I will definitely be reading the next two books. I gave it 4 stars. It was fun. It was bloody. It was fast paced. I had a really good time with this. Next up, I read The Haunting of House Hill by Shirley Jackson. I finally read this book. I've been wanting to read it for a little bit since I want to watch the TV show, the adaptation. I know the adaptation's quite different, but I wanted to see the source material. This is basically about this house called Hill House that is allegedly haunted. There could be some supernatural going on, supernatural things going on in this house. So a doctor invites a bunch of people that have kind of had 2 women that have kind of had supernatural experiences or encounters along to this house, and then a 3rd guy who is set to inherit Hill House to spend the summer in the house and explore if they have any supernatural experiences in the house. So this book is not what I was expecting it to be. I was kind of expecting it to be like jump scary, but it's really not. It's more like atmospheric scary. So the main character is called Eleanor, and you basically just follow her the whole story about her experience going to Hill House and her experience and the kind of effects that the house has on her. And I think that this is more impressive than jump scares and that kind of stuff, because it was so atmospheric and so scary without all of those jump scares. It was more impactful and more sad, because you watch Eleanor, who is quite, I don't know, she's described as quite a sheltered person, and she spent her life as a carer to her mother, so she hasn't really been able to experience much for herself. Her sister kind of treats her like she's kind of this hopeless little girl. So she's been treated as quite sheltered, and she sees this as her opportunity to finally begin her life, finally make friends, and that's just not what it is for her. And that was honestly more scary and upsetting to see. It was just sad to watch her character, like, it not be all that she dreamed it to be, and that the house wanted her. And it was just so like creepy to watch her character just like descend into madness, basically. I think once I realized that that's what the book was and that's what it was going to be, I started having the most fun with it. It's really, really fascinating, and it feels like a little bit unreliable narrator. And I really connected with with the character of Eleanor, and I just really felt sympathetic for her, because I don't know, the house was just messing with her so much, and she didn't deserve it. She just deserved to live her life, and that's really not what happened to her. And the house was just, oh my god, I was reading it at night and I felt so like crushed, and like the weight of how creepy this house was. It's like just how it's described. I can't do this book justice, but 4 stars. I absolutely loved it. The ending was effing devastating. It just, the ending broke me and I felt so flat after reading it. I was like, oh, really? That's how it ends? Oh my god. But it was so good. I'm so glad that this was on my 12 and 12. I had a great time with it. And if you want just a really atmospheric, scary read, I recommend this one. So next up, I had the honour of reading an e-arc from my bookish friend Emily, which was so cool. The e-arc of her new horror novella, Are You Really There? And can I just say, I read her fantasy debut earlier this year when it was her first book, and between that book and this book, I can so see the growth as an author, which is really cool. I can see the growth in her writing, which is really cool to be a part of. This is about a girl that thinks this like monster kind of thing is after her, and she's had this fear since childhood, but no one believes her. And then, yeah, there's some aliens, and yeah, it's really creepy. The arms, the hair on my arms were like standing up while I was reading this book. It genuinely scared me. Like, it was really creepy. The aliens in this are terrifying. I love the alien aspect. I don't read that a lot in books, so that was really freaking cool. I found it was really fast paced, and I loved that there was a bit of an unreliable narrator. Like, I didn't quite know what to believe at the end, and I just had so much fun with this. It's, if you're looking for a really quick spooky read for Halloween, this is absolutely perfect to read with the lights off. So yeah, I'm really proud, and this was really cool, and I was honoured to be able to read an arc. Next up, I read None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marnie. This was disappointing. This is a YA book, and it is about two young adults who are asked by the FBI to help interview teenage psychopath serial killers. And I thought I would eat that up because that's my kind of thing, but I didn't eat this up. I'm gonna need my notes to help me with this one because I just don't know what to say. What did I say after I read it? I said I don't think it was a bad book by any means. Like, it wasn't horrendous. I wasn't like hating it. I wasn't torturous. I wasn't like, I need to put this down straight away, but I had no urge to pick this up as I was reading it either. Like, I really forced myself. Come to think of it, I probably should have DNF'd this, but I didn't, so maybe that's a little bit on me as well for not DNFing. I just think I wasn't able to suspend my disbelief enough in this book that two like 18-year-olds were able to solve a crime that the whole FBI and the behavioral analysis unit's not able to solve, that these professional profilers and agents were not able to solve a crime, yet two stumbling teenagers that have only just started their degrees are able to solve it. And I know the main female character is meant to, like, she's survived a serial killer, so that's kind of her experience, but I don't know if that makes you an expert on all kinds of serial killers. Like, if you survive one type, that makes you an expert on every serial killer ever and how they all work. And then she's like only just started like a psychology degree, and I don't think your first like year of a psychology degree teaches you how to hunt serial killers. And the other one's just started to be a cop. I don't know. The male main character felt like he was just really underutilized and not really part of the story. He was just there to be like her kind of like emotional support puppy. Like, he just like followed her around like a little lost puppy, to be honest. And I feel like he added nothing to the story. Like, he didn't add anything to the story. He didn't make the story move forward in any way. And I just didn't connect to either of them. I just couldn't believe that they would be smarter than all of these male agents, and be annoyed when the bosses were like, how dare you involve yourself in an active serial killer case? Like, of course they're going to be mad. You could be effing this up. You're also 18-year-olds and this is an active case. I just didn't like it. It's disappointing because I really, really wanted to love this, but just didn't. So I ended up giving it 3 stars because, like I said, I don't think it's a horrendously bad book by any means, but it wasn't good either, and I wasn't super engaged. I wasn't connected to the characters, and I just couldn't follow along with the story. I couldn't do it. I kept rolling my eyes, kept being like, why would this 18-year-old have this kind of knowledge? They're not a special agent. They're freaking just started uni. So anyway, yeah, I gave this 3 stars. Let's talk about the final thing I read in October. This is kind of an iconic thing to end on. Burn for You by Ada Pierce. This is a author that's going to be at the Babe event I'm going to next year, and Sash in our Discord was like, anyone want to group read this on Halloween? And we did. We group read this. This is a Monster Smart romance. I want to say this is my first maybe Monster Smart romance. Yeah, and wow, what a first one it was. This is set in this town where this girl comes from this family of witches, and back long ago, one of her ancestors was murdered with this guy, and he made a deal with, I don't know, the devil, I think it was, to come back like every Halloween until he finds her reincarnated, except he's a pumpkin. Yeah. And every year the kids like dare themselves to go out into this field where he roams around looking for the ancestor. And it goes real weird from there. Listen, at first I was kind of enjoying this. I was like, this is kind of hot. I'm kind of getting into this. But then, yeah, there's a bullying scene right at the start that is so triggering and really rough. And I know a few people struggle with it. It was really like intense and really hard to read. And then the middle part, I was like, yeah, this is kind of hot. I can kind of see this. I kind of get it. And then they started describing certain parts of the man pumpkin, and you know, it went real weird for there. That's where I started to be incredibly uncomfortable, and then they got into some weird stuff that made me very uncomfortable, and you lost me. You lost me. But honestly, it was just a really fun time because we were reading it together. And reading those kind of books as a group at the same time just makes it so fun and so entertaining, seeing everyone's reactions in the Discord. So purely because of that experience, I had a great time with it because, you know, everyone was reading it together. It was so entertaining. But in terms of personal reading, it was traumatizing. I could see the hype for a little bit of it. I could see why people like Monster Smart. But then I was very, very, very uncomfortable. I gave it 2 stars, but purely based on the experience, 5 stars. So fun to read as a group. But if I'm reading the book, yeah, 2 stars. But it was such a good way to end the reading month and such a good way to end the spooky season. So that is my October wrap up. 8 books I am really proud of. I think I had a fantastic reading month. So I'm really happy with that. Let me know in the comments, have you read anything I read? If not, what was your favourite thing that you read in October? So give this video a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you would like to see more of my content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in whatever the hell I post next. Bye!